there's some people in the industry who advise against using an MMP in the beginning, which, to be honest, blows my mind after having done marketing now. Because, for example, with Apple search ads, we'll see the disparity between our best performing keywords and our worst performing keywords in terms of user behavior after the click. Because obviously, Apple search ads only tells you what happens up to the download, but it doesn't tell you how many people install, how many people start a trial, how many of those trials convert. Having that data is essential. And if we've been flying blind using just cost per download as our primary KPI, we'd be well under optimized.
Do you need an MMP when you're just starting, or maybe when you're spending very little, or even when you're just using Meta, or maybe just using Google, or perhaps both, maybe even adding TikTok here or there? Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds, the podcast for growth marketers. My name is John Koetsier. It's pretty simple, right? If you're using 25 plus ad partners, you need the one ring that connects them all, binds them, hopefully not in the darkness, and tames the chaos. But what about if you're just starting out? Maybe you're just using one ad partner, maybe two. Today we're chatting with Owen Farmer. He runs Dynamic Apps, built a Vocab app, and he's got some unique insight into this. Hello, Owen. How are you?
Hi, good to meet you, John. How are you?
Very good to meet you. I'm doing well. It is Friday morning as we record this. I'm looking forward to a weekend. A lot of work around the house, but hey, at least it's different. So that's good. It's late in your Friday. So thanks for joining us. Maybe before we dive into all the topics, tell me a little bit about yourself, because you've got a pretty cool backstory.
Yeah, so I've actually been making apps since I was 13. One summer holiday.
Way to make us all feel bad.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I had a lot of spare time one summer, and I thought I want to learn to code. I'd always thought it was really cool how you can have these apps on the App Store that can do anything. I bought a course on Udemy. It's like an online course website, just cost me £10, $15, and I started learning to code. And then I got my first app out about a year later at age 14, and then the app I'm currently working full time on, called WordPal, was the one I released at 15. And that gained traction throughout school. And I was always very academic, so I thought I'd be going to university all those years. But when I got to about 16, 17, I was getting a few $1,000s a year from it. And I thought, this has actually got potential if I can work full time on it. So I thought, I'm going to take the leap, not even apply to university, and I haven't looked back since.
Take the leap of faith. Okay, what was your first app about? What was that? What did that do?
So that was a timer app. So it was basically a timer app where you can program text-to-speech prompts into it. So we've had all kinds of use cases. It never took off as much, but for example, people would plan their day out with it. So they'd have like things being read out, like go and do your work now, go and start your cooking, or things like that. Yeah.
Annoying electronic angel in your ear telling what to do. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So
yeah.
the Vocab app took off. That's pretty cool. And like that was your second app and that took off. First of all, that's amazing. That doesn't happen. A lot of people make 10 apps and they still haven't found one that really starts to take off. This one not only took off, but you've been working on it for a pretty long time. So it continues to do well.
6 years now. I'm 21 now, so yeah, about 6 years.
Wow, this is a significant chunk of your life. What's your market? Who uses this app?
So our market is mainly in the US right now, like a lot of other apps. There is obviously a group of apps which are focused on English as a second language, where like it's people in other countries looking to learn English for the first time. Currently, we're more focused on the people who already natively speak English, or at least have learned the basics, and we're trying to help them take their vocabulary to the next level. So there's a wide variety of use cases. Some on the more serious side, like preparing for exams, like the GRE or the SAT. And on the other side, we have a more casual group of users who might want to keep their brain sharp or sound smarter. Maybe they're not happy with their vocabulary, a whole host of reasons. But yeah.
Cool. Very cool. I noticed you slipped the word we in there. Is that the royal we, or do you have a team now?
Oh, I guess it's the classic we all founders say. I have started
in there.
Yeah, got to start somewhere. I have got some freelancers, so it is a we in a sense. Although I'm the only full-time employee, I do have freelancers for certain things like the content, or with the ads now, we've just started that. So I have a freelancer who helps with that. But yeah, predominantly me, yeah, for now.
Awesome. There's me and there's we. Okay, cool. That's awesome. So let's talk about go to market. Obviously, you started this when you were a kid and you threw it on the App Store, probably Google Play, and maybe that's all you did at first. I don't even know what you did. Maybe you let a few people know about it. How did that progress and what are you doing for marketing now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I started, it was actually called something different. It was called Learn Words Vocabulary Builder, which was very effective for ASO. I'd learned from my first app, the Timer app, that if I don't think about how to market it to people, it's going to get probably 1 or 2 downloads a day and a few dollars a year. So I strategically named it that. I didn't even have a name at the time anyway, so I thought this is a good name. It makes sense enough for people to download it, and it's got 4 key keywords in there. So originally it was just organic all through the App Store. And then I didn't actually start paid marketing until a couple of years ago. And I started with Apple Search Ads to begin with. So that's again through people searching on the App Store, but you're just paying to be number 1 on certain keywords. And then progressing to today, I recently started doing Meta ads, and that's been our sort of biggest growth channel to date because there's just you can reach billions of people on there.
Cool, cool, interesting. What made you move to Meta? Obviously, Apple Ads is super effective. It's also super expensive, and maybe it's only hitting those who are going to the App Store for other reasons and searching. Which, frankly, from in my case, I'm not visiting the App Store every day. What made you say, you know what, I need Meta as well as Apple Ads?
Yeah, so we still run Apple ads. It's just that people, your reach is limited to people who are actively searching for that. And I guess once you max out that group of people, how do you go further? Really, you can either branch out to less relevant terms, but those are far more competitive and expensive, or you can go and build intent on social platforms and get people in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
it's expanding essentially.
Yeah. So it's always interesting to hear about people who have started on Meta. Like, what do you focus on? How what do you how do you set up your campaigns? What's that look like? And what are the KPIs you're looking for?
Well, that's it. It's not quite as easy as Apple Search Ads, which is why I started with that one because you just put your bids in and you go really. Obviously
Yeah.
not quite that simple, but it's much simpler. So with Meta, it was a lot more. I did a lot more research and a lot more planning, and so I think creative is the key lever, and I think generally everyone seems to agree that that is the core focus. So before I even started, I had like a big repository of creatives ready to go, targeting different angles and then different formats, so like images, videos. I think there's still key things to learn. I think people say creative is really key, but I think there's still key things you need to know that if you don't know are going to mess things up, like the campaign structure and the data is really important because you're essentially telling Meta, okay, I want to target everyone in the US, 18 and above. And if you're not feeding them signals about who responds and who doesn't, they're not going to have a clue about who's starting trials or who's subscribing, who's even installing. So
Yes.
that's where that data layer comes in. And is I think if you don't have that, it's going to be very hard to succeed.
100% agree. What's the monetization model, by the way? Because that's also key, right? I mean, that data's got to flow back.
Yeah, so it's a subscription model. So we're a 7-day free trial, and then we move into a paid annual plan. We focus on annual plans mainly because the payback period works better for us compared to doing monthlies where you've got to wait a lot longer. And I think for educational apps, annual does seem to be a popular choice.
Super interesting that your subscription, that's of course incredibly popular right now. Everybody has moved into subscription in the last year or so. Were you there already? Were you there from the beginning? When did you adopt that?
No, so originally I had an in-app purchase that was a really cheap for a few dollars when I first started. Although we didn't have the same level of content features in the app back then, it just started as 100 words that you could learn for free with no monetization at all. Because again, I was starting it alongside school, and I
Sure.
thought I just want to focus on building a good product to start with and get some ratings and people to get some feedback. So I only actually brought subscriptions in at the end of 2022. So I did subscriptions in my time app first as like a trial run, so I'm making sure I did it correctly because that app wasn't as big and there was less risk. And then I basically copied the implementation into my vocabulary app, and it worked really well because it exploded revenue overnight just by adding subscriptions. And I think that's a key. There's a big tailwind in the app industry because I guess if you think back to 10 or 15 years ago, people would consider a $5 one-time purchase ridiculous or expensive, or I'll never buy that. But now we've got subscriptions. We're not as expensive, but the subscriptions ranging into hundreds of dollars a year. And you've got thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people buying these because it adds value to their lives. Apps have become a much more integrated part of society that people accept as a common thing.
The percentage of our lives that has moved over to our mobile devices is massive, right? The things that we do there that we did elsewhere, it's the everything device, and we spend so much time on it. That makes 100% sense. 100% of sense. So let's talk about campaigns and what looks like a successful campaign to you, and why you need an MMP, even though you're basically using two channels, and one has a self-attribution feature. They're both self-attributing in a sense. But Apple Ads, you get a lot of data back. What do you look for in a campaign, and what do you need an MMP for that?
Okay, so I guess the main thing with campaigns is because we don't have VC funding, they need to be profitable, or at least there quickly so we get the money back. It
Yes.
doesn't matter if we need to wait until to get money back from the retention periods in the future when people renew, but we at least need to be getting that money back into the bank account rather than just chucking it out there.
Let's pause there for a second. So you're saying it doesn't matter if you get the money back and takes it over a year because that's the renewal, or
No. So as in, we're happy to, like, on some campaigns, especially when we're testing, we're happy to break even by day 14 because we don't necessarily need to make a profit at day 14 on all of our campaigns, and then we can
yes,
make profit in the later years. But we at least need to get that money back. Like, we don't want to go and spend 10,000 and then only get 5,000 and be waiting till year 4 until we're making
and
a
oh, I
profit on
can't
that.
do any more marketing. Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, day 14 ROAS is our main success metric because we're a 7-day free trial, and then we want to
Yes.
see, most people are starting trials on the first or second day, so we're waiting for those to convert and then seeing what comes back from that. And as a leading indicator, we're always looking at our cost per trial because obviously if you have to wait 14 days to measure performance of campaigns, it slows down decision making. So we mainly use cost per trial, but then we'll verify that the trial to paid was what we were expecting it to be, so that we actually converted enough of those trials into revenue
Super
once the 14
smart.
days has
Super
passed.
smart. You need that early indicator. You need to be able to optimize your campaign, give Meta the data it needs to optimize for you. And then you need that other conversion metric to actually trigger in. And if that falls off a cliff, then you've got issues as well. So complex beast.
Exactly. And I think where the MMP comes in and it's particularly useful is that it helps with seeing revenue at those later stages, because Meta's really good at giving you the information about how many people have started a trial that day. But because of we use a 1-day attribution window, for example, so we only measure conversions that happen, we only measure trials that happen within the first day, because that is when most people start one. And we want to give Meta quick feedback signals. But the revenue is really important because if we do a certain ad angle and only 10% of people convert because maybe they had a certain expectation and it wasn't met, that's going to be a problem. And having an MMP like Singular actually helps us see on the back end, what do those trials end up doing? How high quality are those users? And so on.
Cool. Do you go on the free tier of Singular? Did you burst through that and go to some of the paid tiers? What did you
So
do?
when I started with Apple Search Ads, I was using the free tier of Singular because I think you get 12 or 15,000 free conversions. And we did have to move to the paid tier. But I think with Apple Search Ads, the reason we started with an MMP, and this is an interesting one because I spent a lot of time researching this, because there's some people in the industry who advise against using an MMP in the beginning, which, to be honest, blows my mind after having done marketing now. Because, for example, with Apple Search Ads, we'll see the disparity between our best performing keywords and our worst performing keywords in terms of user behavior after the click, because obviously Apple Search Ads only tells you what happens up to the download, but it doesn't tell you how many people install, how many people start a trial, how many of those trials convert. Having that data is essential. And if we've been flying blind using just cost per download as our primary KPI, we'd be well under optimized.
Wow. I call that faith-based marketing.
Good term, yeah. And I think as well, to be fair, you can integrate the Apple Search Ads API yourself. That is something you can do, but my main focus, I want to be working on the product and doing the marketing. And if I then going to be managing another integration, it just adds more work to the plate. And I'd rather pay someone who's experienced in that to do it. And then as well, like having the integrations with people like Split Metrics, where Singular can send all those events through to Split Metrics, and then Split Metrics pulls in from Apple Search Ads. It's amazing seeing that all in one dashboard rather than having to flip between different tabs, and that would be a nightmare.
Amazing, amazing. I want to ask, like, you've got some contractors that you employ, and so you outsource some of your work, but obviously you're the main person, the main driver of the business. What's your split between product development and marketing right now?
Yeah, so I guess it varies. There's not like a fixed split week to week. It depends what kind of phase I'm in. So sometimes I'll be fully focused in on product, and I will obviously have to keep the marketing going, like maintaining it, and obviously making sure with my freelancers that everything is going well and we're getting new ads produced. But then there will be phases where I go all in on marketing, because maybe on the product side, maybe I'm spending a few weeks doing user research, and I don't need to be spending all my time that week doing user research. I want to be collecting stuff and seeing what people are saying, and then I'll be focusing more on marketing. So I guess it really ebbs and flows between two, essentially.
Cool. Sometimes 90-10, sometimes 10-90. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
It's really two worlds, right? Development and marketing. It's amazing. I've been a solo founder. I run my own company right now as well, and it's always a dance, right?
yeah. And I think I guess over time I've realized there is more and more interaction between the two. So I think especially now you're starting to see product-led marketing where people might, I guess it's always been a thing, but it's particularly with B2C apps, people are marketing their app off like individual features, like a calorie tracking app, and they're taking a picture of the food. That's like that forms the basis of the ad. And I guess gaming ads, it is the game which often forms the basis of the ad. They're not trying to say, maybe some of them say kill boredom, but a lot of them are showing the game in action, and it might be a playable ad. So I guess I am starting to realize we want features that people are both attracted to and actually can derive value from. Because if someone never discovers a feature, it's useless. But at the same time, if you've got the best app in the world and no one ever finds it, yeah, no one ever uses it. So
It's fascinating, honestly, because I've talked to a lot of marketers, talked to a lot of developers over the years, and one of the things that's really come out recently over the past year or so is that people want their product teams and their market teams to be close. They want them to
yeah,
talk, they want them to connect for exactly the reasons that you just mentioned, right? Because you can build a great new feature nobody knows about, it doesn't matter. You can build what you think is a great new feature, but nobody cares, and still that also doesn't matter. And so the funny thing is that you're the same. You're the product development and the marketing, which means that you have those conversations in your head versus with the team necessarily. And also, sometimes you face the harsh reality as a developer. You thought, "Oh, this is so freaking awesome. People are gonna love this." And as a marketer, you find out, "Oh shit, nobody nobody
yeah.
cares." It's a challenging world to be in.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a thing. You hear the buzzwords silos and cross-functional teams a lot, but there is truth to it. And I think in my case, it does help that I am the same person in that regard. So there's no like communication breakdowns or problems with that.
Mhm.
So that is an area of efficiency. I think it's really, really important that they're integrated, because again, you need people's expectation when they're seeing the ads that needs to be matched when they're downloading. And if the two are different, then it's going to cause problems.
And I find that all the time, and I've talked about that for years as well. Like I download an app expecting one thing, I get another thing. That's almost always an instant delete for me. It really
Mm.
is. And even sometimes you get some what you want. So I have my favorite game. I've been playing this game for years. I'm pretty advanced in it. I've spent significant money in it. Significant for me, probably not a whale. I haven't spent like over 10K or something like that, right?
10K.
Or
Yeah.
but anyways, I just tried a new game, and it's one of those like you're scrolling side to side and killing zombies, and then you're getting power ups and stuff on the other side, and then it adds like a building thing, and like I'm not here to build. I don't want to build.
Mm.
I didn't see this in the ad. That's not why I downloaded. I just want 5 minutes of fun, and I don't want to build stuff. I just want to kill stuff. Sorry, maybe I'm a bad person. But that's really critical to have a user journey flow through the ad and into the app. Now you can have different segments, and you can have different ads, and you have different focus areas in your app as well. But it's important to have that consistency, I think.
And I think what you said about the instant delete is a really key thing, because what I've learned recently is that it's not people's job to discover how to use your app properly. And you may actually have what they're looking for, but if they don't realize that quickly, they don't care and they won't take the time to find out, because they expect there's such a high standard for mobile apps now that it's well, in my opinion, it's developers' job to think, right, this is what people's expectation is. How do I make it glaringly clear that this can be done in the app without them having to go through 3 menus or wait 5 hours of using the app until they actually see anything? Yeah, so I think it's really important that that's all very tightly kept, the expectations and what's shown in the ads.
Very, very cool, Owen. This is a cool conversation, and you've had a cool journey. It's interesting because a lot of people who might be somewhat similar to you and are building apps, they might adopt a VC strategy, right? That might look more like spray and pray. Like, I'm going to make 50 apps, and if one of them takes off organically, virally, great, there I go, right? And you've actually almost since the beginning focused in on this one app and are building this business. Talk about that. Talk about that sort of spray and pray type of thing versus actually, you're not so much, it's not just, you're not just building an app, you're building a business. Talk about that tension, that difference.
Yeah, I guess there's a saying, if you throw enough shit at the wall, it will stick, but it's still shit at the end of the day. Like, I think it's important, and that approach does have its place in different areas of life. I guess with advertising, there's a lot of, because you can pump out so many creators nowadays, we do see that kind of thing. But I think for me, it's mainly about focus, because I'm trying to build the best vocabulary app possible. And if I was to have another 5 apps going on the side, I'm then spreading my time between 5 or 6 different apps. And how am I going to do an amazing job of any of them? I might do a mediocre or an okay job of each of them. But I think it's better to be amazing at one thing than to be average at 6 different things. And especially if you're, there's always going to be someone who's doing it full time. So how am I going to compete against other people? Or how am I going to, there's also the learning cycles as well. I'm learning as I go along. And if, like, the more I can compress the learning and compound of the learning, the faster and the better I'll be able to improve the app and then grow it. So focus really is a key thing for me.
That makes a ton of sense. And you were smart enough, lucky enough, whatever it was, to find some level of product market fit quite early and find something that had some traction, and you've continued to build on that. So huge congrats on that. Super interesting conversation, Owen. Really do appreciate everything that you've brought, and hope everything continues to go well for you.
Thank you for having me, John. Great to chat.